The most important board game in geopolitics isn't being played in Washington. It isn't being played in Beijing either. It's being played in near silence, on a map most people assume belongs to America. The player is Europe. The game is Go. Chess is about capture, the loud, decisive blow. Go is about position. You place a stone, then another. You surround territory before your opponent notices it's gone. And right now Europe is placing stones, 2 across oceans, 1 across a steppe. 3 bridges, built quietly, while the cameras point somewhere else. By the end of this, you'll read Europe's next 20 years as a single diagram. 3 bridges, 1 patient player, and 1 widening crack inside the West. Start with the obvious question. Why would Europe reach outward now? Because it is boxed in. Russia's invasion of Ukraine slammed the door to the east. The cheap Russian energy that fed European industry is gone, and it isn't coming back. And the partner Europe leaned on for 80 years, the United States, no longer feels reliable. So Europe does what a cornered power does. It diversifies. The economist Albert Hirschman explained the logic generations ago. Trade is never only trade. The country that supplies you can also squeeze you. So you spread your suppliers and you turn your own market into leverage. That is the whole strategy in one line. Europe is buying its way out of dependence. And it's doing it on 3 fronts at once. Watch the same 4 questions repeat for every bridge. What does it carry? Who builds it? Who is it aimed at? And what does it cost? 3 bridges, the same 4 questions. Let's place the first stone. The first bridge runs north across the Atlantic to Canada. Canada has signed an agreement to send natural gas to Germany. It's a long project. It starts around 2030 and runs to 2050. So this isn't a quick fix. It's a 20-year commitment. What it carries is straightforward: resources and the security that comes with them. Gas from a stable democracy instead of a hostile neighbor. Around this bridge, a new security club is taking shape. Germany, the Scandinavians, Iceland, Canada, and Britain. Call it an Arctic Treaty, ARTO, a northern bloc forming around the top of the world. Who builds it? Germany. Berlin is the assembler, the hub where the northern bridge gets put together. And here Jean Monnet's old insight matters. Europe was never built by grand declarations. It was built by concrete bonds, coal, steel, one practical link at a time. A gas contract is exactly that kind of brick. Who is it aimed at? Look at where that stone lands. It lands in the Western Hemisphere, North America itself. What does it cost? Time and a great deal of capital. A bridge of ships and terminals across the Atlantic is slow and expensive. But the first stone is down. The northern span is set. So where does Europe place the second? The second bridge runs south to Brazil and the Mercosur bloc of South America. Europe has signed a free trade deal with them. What it carries mirrors the north: resources and markets. Brazilian biofuel flowing into Europe, the way Canadian gas flows in from above. Brazil, together with the United States, makes up about 80% of the world's biofuel. So this is a heavyweight energy partner, not a side deal. By 2038, the deal is set to drop the tariffs on Brazilian ethanol. Then the volumes climb. Who builds it? Spain. Madrid is the southern hub. The economist Friedrich List argued that a shared market is power. Tie your economies together and the whole bloc grows stronger. That's the southern bridge in one sentence. Now step back and look at both ocean stones together. One in the north, one in the south. They bracket the entire Western Hemisphere. For 2 centuries, the United States treated this hemisphere as its own, the Monroe Doctrine, a line stretching from Greenland to the tip of South America. Europe has just placed stones on both ends of that line. The American backyard isn't only American anymore. 2 stones across 2 oceans. Quick question before the third. Drop it in the comments. Of the 3 bridges, which one do you think Europe actually finishes first? Hold that thought, because the third bridge is the hard one. The third bridge doesn't cross an ocean. It crosses a steppe. It runs east through the South Caucasus and Central Asia, all the way to China. What it carries is the richest cargo of the 3: oil, uranium, gold, rare earths, and a market of young, growing, spending populations. This is the middle corridor. the new Silk Road that skips Russia. Europe is courting these states directly. Summits of the EU plus the 5 Central Asian republics. Washington is running its own. But here is the hard edge of this bridge, and I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. This bridge exists to get out from under Moscow. Take one pipeline, Kazakh oil from the giant Tengiz field. Today it flows north through Russia to the port of Novorossiysk, then out across the Black Sea. That route is cheap. It's also a leash. And that port is now under drone fire because of the war Russia started in Ukraine. So Europe and Turkey want that oil rerouted west across the Caspian into the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline, out through Turkey to the Mediterranean. That path skips Russia, the Black Sea and the Turkish Straits completely. It costs Kazakhstan far more to ship the oil that way. And that extra cost is the entire point. Europe is paying a premium to cut a leash. Who builds it? Turkey. Ankara is the hub, and the Ceyhan terminal is the door. But a bridge is only as strong as the ground it crosses, and this ground has ideas of its own. Here's what makes this bridge different from the other two. The steppe is not empty. It isn't a blank pipe, waiting for Europe to draw a line across it. The states along it have their own ambitions, and their own deep history. Kazakhstan has just claimed the mantle of the Golden Horde. The old empire of the steppe split into 2 wings. The White Horde in the west, the Blue Horde in the east, divided at the Ural River. By raising that ancient flag, Kazakhstan is sending 3 messages at once. To Moscow, we are old and we are not your subject. To Turkey, Central Asia is its own Turkic project, the steppe wolf, not the Seljuk falcon. And to Beijing, the door is open. So Europe's third bridge runs across proud, self-directed ground. That makes it richer in resources. It also makes it far harder to control than a stone on a board. Parag Khanna calls ours the age of connectivity. The map, he argues, is now drawn by lines of supply, not only by borders. This corridor is that idea made real. 3 stones now, all reaching outward, but every one of them reaches away from home, which leaves one problem: the danger right on Europe's doorstep. So far, every move has been about reach. This one works the other way. The 4th shape on the board doesn't point outward at all. It points inward. 4 capitals: Rome, Vienna, Budapest, Warsaw. Draw a line between them and you get a diamond sitting inside Europe. Where the 3 bridges reach for growth, this diamond manages a threat. It's where Europe handles the one thing the bridges can't escape: a hostile Russia next door. These are the capitals where Russian pressure lands hardest, and where the uneasy business of coexistence gets negotiated. This isn't friendship. It isn't trust. It's the cold management of a dangerous neighbor. And it tells you why the bridges exist in the first place. You reach outward for growth precisely because you must hold a line at home. A power builds 3 spans to the horizon and 1 quiet wall in its own yard. The board is now complete. 3 bridges out, 1 diamond in. Time to read what the whole picture means. Step back and look at the finished board. 3 bridges and a diamond. They aren't 4 separate moves. They are one strategy. Europe is no longer playing junior partner to the United States. It's building its own space, its own resources, its own markets, its own security clubs. And that quietly changes everything between Europe and America. Remember the Monroe Doctrine, the American Hemisphere, from Greenland to Antarctica. Europe's stones have blocked that line. The backyard has other players in it now. This is what an older idea would call an intra-species divergence. The 2 halves of the West, Europe and America, slowly drifting into competition. Call it a widening seam along the Atlantic, the way the Roman Empire once split into a western half and an eastern one. Be precise about the pace. This is slow. It isn't a rupture and it isn't tomorrow. But the direction is set, and the stones are already on the board. And read it straight. This is the West reorganizing itself, not the West in decline. This is where the resources, the money, and the leverage are quietly being routed. The smart move is to watch the board, not the headlines. Robert Schuman once said Europe would be built through real achievements, one step at a time. This is exactly that on a global scale, brick by brick, stone by stone. So here is the board as it stands. 3 stones placed across 2 oceans and 1 steppe, 1 diamond lit inside, and a hand hovering over the next move. Europe has placed 3 stones and it's reaching for a 4th. Where do you think the next one lands? Tell me on the board below. This is one move in a much longer game, and we'll keep watching it.